Welcome to The Lost Signals discusses film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzar-Amosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to another episode of The Lost Signals Reviews, Film and Television. I am Chris Morgan here with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Hi.
Stephen Armosi.
I do die.
And Scott Thurlow.
Toxic Moon Energy.
And nice. And tonight, Jesus. All right, and tonight we'll be reviewing Jim Jarmusch's latest offering, The Dead Won't Die.
The Dead Don't Die.
Please don't. Ian, do you have us a funny log line?
Why, thank you, Chris. Wes Craven meets Wes Anderson.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
In Jim Jarmusch's ode to Al Gore's seminal work, An Inconvenient Zombie.
Elaborately amazing, sir.
Excellent.
Outstanding. Go on the plot, because I'm going to keep laughing here.
All right, so Bill Murray and Adam Driver are cops in Centerville, a small town, America.
A real nice place.
Yeah, it's a real nice place. They deal with the zombie horde, which turns out to be a metaphor for climate change. No one's prepared to deal with it. There's different groups. Like Steve Buscemi is a Trump supporter, if you will, or a kind of a MAGA kind of guy.
Yeah.
You have Tilda Swinton, an alien, come to Earth who seems to be the last-minute savior, but leaves. And there's nothing we can do about climate change zombies. It's polar fracking has caused the end of the world, and everybody dies.
And Tom Waits gets the final word, as probably would be in the real apocalypse.
Yeah,
This is true.
Tom Waits reprising his role from
From Buster's Christ.
yeah, as the old man in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It's an okay movie. It's an ensemble cast, and all of these bit players have their own arcs that play out. The center is Bill Murray on Driver, and to a certain extent, Chloe
Savini, I believe.
I never know how to pronounce her name. I haven't seen it in a while, but I'm sure she's been in other movies. As the main police force dealing with that. But what's weird is for a 3-act structure, when you look at all the smaller arcs, it seems to be, to me at least, that all of these pieces are kind of missing one of the acts. So, for instance, they have a group of young people in a delinquent
Detention center.
This is called the CDC. Ha ha ha! I get it, Jim Jarmusch. Very funny. And they all of a sudden just disappear at a part in the movie, and their plot lines never resolved. You have, the Bill Murray line is a 3-act structure, but a lot of these just kind of either end abruptly or fade away, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it's about the idea. It's more about ideas than narrative. I don't know, but I don't know if I can give this a full 3 points, because it just seems that certain threads are never tied off. And yeah, so I'm going to give it a 2.
I think that I don't know. I've only seen a couple other Jarmusch movies, but it seems like that's kind of, especially in the one that sticks out in my mind the most, Coffee and Cigarettes, is like he is interested in the conversations that people have in the small moments, and I think that's kind of where this movie shines. And I like those conversations. Really,
because I feel that it's hit or miss for the most part, whether the conversation. Even we make a joke of, is this improv? Sort of part, and it feels like maybe that was the whole point. Maybe it's the idea of this is the realistic aspect of it, but I don't know. Go on.
No, it was a lot of these are conversations that don't really have an end, much like most conversations in real life, I find. And there's not, the point is not to get to a conclusion, but to ask the questions that the movie wanted to ask. And I think that it does that. I think that it gets all of these like weird characters, as Jarmusch always does, into like their own little. So like in Coffee and Cigarettes, it's a bunch of vignettes about a bunch of different things, and in this, it's like he wanted to have all those vignettes tied together by a through line. And I feel like that's kind of what this was, is like a bunch of vignettes that were tied together by this zombie apocalypse that's happening, or like it's not even like the zombie apocalypse isn't the real apocalypse. The real apocalypse is kind of the climate change that he's trying to very blatantly point out to you.
Yeah.
And that notwithstanding, as far as the plot goes, it's far more of a coherent plot than a bunch of actual vignettes, in terms of like you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whether or not many people will think they are good, or like they actually provide closure, is a different story. But I don't think that's what Jarmusch was interested in this movie. I think that's pretty obvious. And whether or not you think that's makes for a good movie is another fucking question, like entirely. But I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. I thought that it was funny, and I thought that that the characters were all their own people and kind of filled out the world nicely. I guess that might go to different questions, but in terms of the plot, I'm probably going to give it a 2. It's not really, I think, the entire point of the movie to have a coherent plot necessarily. In fact, they lampshade the meta-ness of this several times, and I don't think this is really about the plot. I think it's about having those little moments that Jarmusch likes to have in his movies, and that's kind of what he was going for. So I'm probably going to give it a 2. I think the plot was kind of funny, like in its as it was conceived, and yeah, I mean that's most of what I wanted to say.
I was telling Beth and I was telling you in precast that Jarmusch is without question one of my top 3, if not 2, favorite directors of all time. I had the same feeling I had this when I was watching Patterson, and I really wasn't sure how I felt about it, because there's a lot going on with there's actually more going on here than there was in Patterson, but Jarmusch is great for having a lot going on with very little, or very little going on.
Sure, that's kind of his stick.
Yeah, and the thing is, the one thing that got me to love Patterson was there was a very simple thing that happened towards the end of the movie that made everything gel, and I didn't get that here. I mean, I'm okay with not everybody's life has a resolution. That people fade in and fade out, and all the components of it, I think, were right on the money to a certain degree, but it never fully gelled to me. I am definitely going to give it a 2. But Steevo, I agree with everything you said, and as I said, I loved all the parts of it. There's a lot going on here and a lot to say, and I think he says stuff very heavy-handedly at times, and very subtly at times, and I feel like he winks at the camera more. Like the whole thing with the Star Wars.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
It's like the one thing that stuck out was Tilda Swinton's line of, "I like that. It's excellent fiction," or something like that. And then the reveal where she's an alien, or I think is great, because I think just having her like peace out and leave, is something else that could be said with regard to, I guess, when we get to theme, the fact that people just pass through and go away, and in whatever crisis people exist in their own little reality, which is like even with zombies, you go back to a lot of the themes Romero was talking about in terms of consumerism, and the terms of that, like we go back to things we're familiar with, but as I said, I feel like they never were complete thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to say something first.
I was just saying, a lot of what you said just then is the next question.
I'm sorry.
It sort of bleeds into it, but like...
Sorry, yeah.
So, for my score, like, I was going into it, I was thinking about this all day ever since I got out of the theater from this. So, like, my initial gut reaction is, like, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I was never bored, but as you guys talk, like, yeah, I was gonna go on with a 3, to be honest, and now I think 2 is about right because you're right, for sure. Some plot threads are just left dangling, like you can't argue with that. But yeah, you might say like that's Jarmusch's style, as you pointed out, kind of Steve. Like he's more interested in like the moments between that stuff. But that means in terms of narrative, like it's not quite complete, or like if he's going for something, it doesn't quite get there. Like you said, like doesn't quite gel all together. So I think it's a very strong 2. So I'm sort of like talked down from a 3. But yeah, I think it. At the end of the day, it should reside in like 2 land because of all that stuff, and maybe a lot of the other things we'll say will about to come up in the next question or two. But in terms of plot structure, I'll go to very strong 2, but just not enough for a 3. Although I was almost convincing myself of it, but you guys' points I think sort of reinforced the doubts I had in my own mind and nitpicks perhaps you might say about it. And yeah, I think a 2 is about right.
Okay.
What?
So-
Hold on, hold on. What were you giving it?
Giving him 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear you say
I
it.
think we're all giving it 2s, but I was yeah.
Sorry.
I was gonna say 2s all around.
Yes. A zombie 2.
A
My
zombie.
apologies.
All right. Well, Stevo, why don't you continue on with the themes, which apparently I jumped the gun.
All right. So there are 2 very, 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 very obvious themes, which are climate change, with the whole polar fracking storyline that's
Yeah.
going on throughout that you're seeing from
The classic like news
on the
reports.
news, and they're like everyone's denying it, even as it's destroying the world, which I think is obviously something that Jarmusch wanted to say in this. And then there's the consumerism angle,
Yeah.
where everybody that comes back just says their favorite thing that they did in life, and it's they're all like
It's all materialistic
yeah,
stuff.
they're all very materialistic.
But whose favorite thing in life was Bluetooth?
Everybody trying to
They're trying to make it find the
stalk
connection.
Facebook.
The guy trying to find a wireless, like that's fine. Wireless signal, cool. But Bluetooth, I don't.
Anyway,
It was just thrown in there, kind of.
I wanted to talk
I
about a
found
couple
them.
other really interesting things that I found about this movie that were probably a lot more subtle. One is that you kind of talked about briefly earlier, Ian, the kids that kind of go away after a while. I think this is a really interesting commentary on. They represent the youth of the country, other than the little kids that are killed, right? Like they represent the future of the country, the teenagers, right? And they end up so their end basically after they escape their jail that they've been put in is kind of running off, saying they think they have some place to hide, and you don't.
They have a
actually
safe
know.
place.
Yeah, they think they have a safe place, and you don't actually know where
And
to
then
get to.
they're gone.
I think that's a really fascinating commentary on what the generation below under the teenagers now, what they're gonna have to deal with, and whether or not they can figure out a way to be safe in the coming years, like looking down the barrel of climate change and all that stuff. I think that's one of the really interesting themes that I saw in this movie. Another one is Tilda Swinton, who is basically just a zombie killing machine, decides that humans aren't worth saving. She's there looking at Bill Murray and Adam Driver being swamped after having said that they were going to meet each other, being swamped by zombies, and she just gets in a UFO and gets the hell out of there. Like basically saying like this thing, like this magical Deus Ex Machina that could have existed is just decides that humans are not worth saving,
But no, it's a commentary on everyone who imagines that climate change will have this Deus Ex Machina come
Right.
in, save us from it, and
Guess
the
what?
personification of it isn't interested in.
Right, exactly. Like that's and that's not interesting to you. I think that's another one that's like, despite the bombastic exit that she makes, a more subtle theme. And my final one, which I think is the most interesting one, is that all of these characters end up stuck in this town without an exit, without even access to other places. Like their cell phones die, their watches die. Like they have no concept of time anymore, and they're just stuck watching, knowing, and in the case of Adam Driver and Bill Murray, knowing their own demise, like mentally, like specifically having read the script knowing that they're going to die, at least Adam Driver, and still playing out their parts in it. And I think that is fascinating. Maybe the meta part of it done a little bit ham-handedly, but like just thinking about it,
More than a little, but
sure. But just thinking about it like from that angle made me think about it differently. And like this is a movie, I think that, yeah, like you guys mentioned, it's like it knocks you over the head with the climate change angle. It knocks you over the head with the consumerism angle. But it's a movie that I'm going to think about for a while, I think. And like just kind of like why were those choices made, that type of thing. And I mean that's kind of what I wanted to say about themes. That's why I wanted to take themes for this.
I disagree. I don't know what actually movies that I thought that would stick with me don't. Some movies that I thought I would forget immediately. Some stick with me. I don't know how this will hold over time. However, I understand what he was trying to do here, and I agree with a lot of the points he made and the subtler themes that he brought up. What is the end goal of the themes he's trying to spit here? Is he just yelling at us? Because it felt very preachy at times, and it felt like he's just yelling at us. So the converted, the people who actually fear climate change and are trying to be active, no, they're already converted, and now you're.
they don't need any convincing.
And are the people who otherwise who are on the fence about it? Will they be converted over this? I think the hostile reaction that this gets from a lot of the, or the very divisiveness of this film and a lot of the reviews, I think, because I don't know, it old man yelling at clouds in a certain sense, that it's Jim Jarmusch, who I respect, is yelling at me about climate change. And I'm like, I agree with you. And the people who don't agree with you, I don't know if they're going to be swayed by this, and I think that then it fails in its intent.
I'm not. Hold on. I'm sorry. Let me just react to that really quickly. I'm not sure that he's trying to convert anyone. I don't think that he views the world as being able to be converted at this point. I don't think that he has hope for it, like based on this movie. And this is kind of his outlet to say that. I'm not sure that he's trying to like convert anybody or like convince anyone that we can change things. I think he's just saying like, look at this, like he's just
he's saying we're all dead. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Being a fatalist, and I don't know. That's not.
Sure.
And I don't. I
You can say you don't-
respect that. I don't like that.
I was gonna say you can say you don't like that for sure.
Yeah.
Like I kind of.
You've given up. It's cool.
I kind of
you
look
can
at that.
Say, we're,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I've given up on everything.
Yeah.
I'm going out, taking the shotgun out later tonight. No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I don't mind that type of movie. Like I'm not against a movie that is fatalist in that way. And like I think that there is really interesting art to be had in a fatalist concept, and I think that this does a good job. It's not Jarmusch's best movie in my opinion by any means, but I think that this does a good job, and I think there are those two themes that are super obvious and just knock you over the head with them, but I think there is a lot of subtler things going into this film.
Yeah, man, this one's tough for me because, of course I agree. It couldn't be any more obvious. Like, they couldn't make it any more clear. Like, thank you, Jarmusch. Like, I get it. So, like, I kind of didn't like that angle, that aspect that, like, especially at the end, like, the last, like, say, 20 minutes or so of the movie, where, like, it was, like, just... if the movie could punch me in the face with the themes, like, it would have. Like, pretty much. But, like, in the last line even, it's like, well, this... Like, I think, it was Tom Waits' character who's like, well, fuck this world. Or, like, something like that. Which, yeah, is a very fatalist thing to say, and given the events of the plot, is also that. So, like, I'm not sure, like, normally I would say, like, being me, like, I sort of like that kind of stuff. I appreciate, like, the, maybe, like, intent going into it. But I don't know if the execution was enough for me, or, like, in the way that I thought was effective. And, like, yeah, I kind of agree, Steevo. I don't think he's necessarily trying to convince anybody of anything. But also, like, then what's the point of saying fuck it, right? Is what.
No, but then why would you preach at me for a good half hour of this film?
I don't
He's
know.
fucking pissed off and he wants to
Yeah,
put that
right,
into
like,
his art.
I guess
Yeah, but the thing
get
is, you
Jarmusch
should
on the
dilute that a
show.
little bit in your art.
Sure, if he
Why?
get him on the horn.
No,
If you're saying you don't care, then don't yell at me that how much you care. That's
Yeah, I get that. Like, I totally see what you mean there. That's why I'm torn about this because I mean, I kind of like them. I like the themes on paper, I guess I want to say, but as portrayed and as like executed and unfolded in the actual film itself, I'm not sure if I can gonna give it credit here. Even though, yeah, I still do respect Jarmusch as an artist and I like him. I like his stuff in general as a whole, but I'm not sure if it came off as well as it could have in this instance.
well, I mean, I agree with you there. And as we've talked about before, and I was telling Ian precast, it's just like propaganda is propaganda, even if I agree with you.
Sure.
And I don't like to be preached at, even if I agree with you. However, I agree with Steevo in the fact that when you break this down to its part, you get past that. I was really much more interested in so much as the apathy that the zombies represented. The kids. It's like it is something that I'd be thinking about, not the grander themes, not the things that I was being yelled at for, but all the things that were happening in between, like the little storylines that were lost. And like I said,
that meant nothing in the long run.
that meant nothing in the long run. But the thing is, it is something that I'm going to continue to think about. And as with Tilda Swinton's character, just the Deus Machina that just disappears. So again, I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of leaning towards a softer one. It's not like a really strong one, but it is something I'm going to keep thinking about and keep dissecting. So I don't know. I'm kind of seeing where you guys are in giving this a 0 too.
And
I'm leaning toward a softer 0 at this point, to be honest with you. Like, to play devil's advocate, or play devil's out of the coin.
I'm giving it a 0.
I briefly want to mention, I'm going to give it a 1, but I briefly want to mention also, I guess like his non-fatalistic streak goes with the teens as they kind of run away and go looking for that safe place, right? And, like, that's kind of his way of like saying,
Like glimmer of
look,
positivity.
here's
perhaps?
here's where the hope of humanity lies, right? Like this story that you're not going to see right now, but if you remember, they're the only characters that didn't die other than Tom Waits.
Oh, that we don't know.
That we know.
That
we don't know.
They could be zombies in the street.
The
right
fate is
It could
uncertain for sure.
But what does that matter whether they could be or couldn't be? Like that's.
now. It's just, I'm
Would you like to know if they are? Would you like to have seen them in their safe house at the end of the movie?
I would have. Yeah, actually,
It would have been more complete, is what he's saying.
I think that would have been a worse ending for them.
Well, I mean, and I guess this is a good time to talk about themes and him really nailing in a couple themes that like.
This is a perfect time to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right.
This
Now
would
I
be
can
the time
talk.
to talk about
Now
it.
bring in Romero into this. One of my favorite films of all time is Dawn of the Dead, 1978. Not that Zack Snyder piece of shit.
That was okay.
All right.
It was maybe the best thing Zack Snyder
And
ever
it
did.
brought Richard Cheese into prominence.
It's the only good thing about it.
But the one thing he was talking about was zombies as consumers. It took place in the mall, and also the whole thing of where we go back to things that are familiar. They don't know why. They just know they want to be here. I mean, those things were actually spoken by Tom Waits. So that's not too subtle a thing. And I kind of derailed my own point with this one.
Spot on.
That Dawn of the Dead
All right,
handled
so
one of the
0, 1,
major
0,
themes.
1.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dawn of the Dead
Much better.
handled it a lot better.
Sure.
He did take.
It had a dexter hand to it.
I'm not going to debate that.
No. So, like I said, I'm now. I went to talk myself into a 1. Now I'm starting to talk myself into a 0.
I'm
right.
giving it a 0, 1, Chris.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with a 0 on this
Yeah,
one.
I think
Because-
soft 0. I think is
All right. Oh no. Here's my whole point. It's at the end of the Dawn. At the end of Dawn of the Dead, they Peter and Fran fly off in a helicopter to points unknown, and you don't know. The future's wide open. But the thing is, I feel like they earned
I'd rather
that.
see where they got to.
No. That's actually a really good point.
You earn that with the 3 kids. You wanted to see them. It didn't bother me that we didn't see them.
Because I
But
didn't feel that their arc was complete. Them flying off, their arc was complete.
Yeah.
And the escape.
this was a slice of
Fair.
life. This was like, as we always say, like apocalypse. Now what? This showed you like once you survive, now what? You know, society's gone and you're living in a mall, but after a while, who cares? And then you fly off to
Parts unknown.
Parts
the
unknown.
parts
Anthony
unknown.
Bourdain.
Because
R.I.P.
we've answered this thing where there's no safe place, there's only a safer place.
He would have survived the zombie apocalypse.
Anthony Bourdain would be eating zombies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Telling
So
you how to prepare them.
so yeah, I with those kids, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 0.
Okay.
I
Maybe
guess
a little
I'm-
softer 0. I mean, it was right on the cusp,
No,
but
really good point.
Like I said, like my final thought is like it's while I don't disagree with the themes, the way they were integrated, I don't think worked. It could have been handled better, and especially coming from Jarmusch, who I sort of expect a little bit better from. I guess I'll say
yeah, and
on that front.
Jarmusch is wonderful with these slice of life things. I mean, like
Sure.
you know, people like
Yeah, no argument there is
Yeah.
all, but
But not the slice of zombie lives.
zombie lives.
exactly.
Mhm.
So that's going to be 3 zeros and a 1.
Yep.
Okay, and we're going off to Scott for the antagonist.
The undead ghouls. Like, it's like
Ghouls?
it's still like I don't know. I'm sorry. Like personally, like, it kills me the way Adam Driver says that. Like just his voice, like it's funny. So like it kind of ties in though. Like I guess as we just spoke about themes, right? Like I guess you could say climate change is the reason why zombies are happening in this particular apocalypse, anyways. So like I'm not really sure. Like of course they're antagonized by the consumer zombies, like in terms of the plot. But like that's true of every zombie movie you ever seen. Like they're always like the physical monsters are going to be the antagonists. But like I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll open up. I don't know. What do you guys see as the antagonist? You tell me. If not that.
So one, there were zombies in this film were more Return of the Living Dead than they were Night of the Living
Yeah,
Dead.
yeah, that's funny and for sure true.
But the unpreparedness, and they actually, he did a really good job of showing different groups. I think I made this point earlier, where like the MAGA guy.
That's a good point.
Steve Buscemi is such a weird thing to say.
Farmer Frank, I believe it.
Yeah. What an asshole. He like he has his guns, he has his land, he has his like the right wing dream, but
And it
he's
still didn't save him. Yeah.
literally overwhelmed by climate change.
Mhm.
Like there's they show the different groups. They have the hips, like Our Generation Hipster Chicks by Selena Gomez and friends.
Selena Gomez.
Yeah,
Hello, guys.
who are
And somebody else. Yeah.
turned out to be delicious Cleveland. I didn't know Cleveland was a taste, but it turns out to be.
Oh.
So like it's the unpreparedness of all these different groups who at times think that they're prepared, including the authority figures,
Yeah.
which are our main,
And even
the last survivors, but even that the police can't deal with it.
I mean, so it's like even that. So like the Caleb, what's his guy's name? The guy who played the gas station.
Caleb Landry, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Him and Danny Glover like came together like, and again, medically, he's like, I've seen every zombie film ever. Just listen to me, we'll figure it out.
And we're in a hardware store,
Yeah.
which is the best place to be.
Yeah,
in
right.
we should be
apocalypse.
perfectly fine.
Why did they fucking nail that
In
back door
Pennsylvania-
shut?
and the place takes place in Pennsylvania, so they can actually be in a hardware store with guns, with hatchets.
But that's what I'm saying to your point. Like they thought they were prepared. Like we know what we're doing. And we know the information how to deal with this, and they still got eaten alive.
Yes.
Right. So like I think that's a good point. I do like that angle. That's why I was asking. Like what you guys would put your finger on as the antagonistic force or elements. In
Yeah,
here.
sure. Like zombies, climate change. It's all basically just kind of
Like one big conglomerate.
The big antagonist. It's just
Right.
like, I mean, the march of fucking horrible shit that we're doing to the planet. I guess is like,
Mother Earth wants us all to leave.
The politicians told me that polar fracking.
It's
Yeah.
fine. So it's fine. Yeah. Good, Chris.
Yeah, I'm kind of stuck on this because it's like the antagonist personified as the ghouls, but the antagonist
Ghouls?
overall
Cool.
theme, zombies. You know, is it
Yeah,
an
dead.
animal or is it a pack of animals?
Yeah, I did like.
Oh goddamn! You
That'll
still,
come to dialogue.
I have
but-
dialogue.
Yeah.
But, well, you
Leave
know,
my dialogue alone.
But anyways. Yeah.
No, but is the real antagonist thematically one of the many things that the zombies represent? And that's part of the reason that I was thinking I gave themes zeros because, well, do the zombies represent consumerism? Do they represent climate change? Do they represent both at the same time, which is completely valid? But I feel like the message got muddled, which is why
Yeah.
an antagonist, I'm not really sure what the antagonist is. Are we talking about the actual physical manifestation?
I mean,
Which
well,
is-
sure, to the characters, of course, it's going to
Yeah.
be that, but
Hold. If I may, you think that the message was unclear in this movie?
No.
He said
no.
the way it would.
You
No,
said it was
the-
muddled.
No, what the zombies represented at any given time? Were they consumerism? Were they? Was it the apathy?
I feel like yes they were
Were they no? But were the
represented as
zombies?
consumerism.
Yeah,
Because
but were
of-
they? Were also they the embodiment of climate change because they were an effect of climate, but they also did change the climate of the town.
They're whatever giant mallet Jim Jarmusch needed at the time to get his point across.
Which that to me sort of means they're effective. Like, I don't know,
think
man. Like,
thematically, I think they're muddled, but as an
Antagonistically?
antagonist, they were.
I think I might agree with
I think
that.
it's a good
Okay,
antagonist.
that's
Yeah.
fair
I'm
enough.
gonna give it
Fair
a
enough.
I think I'm on board with that angle. Yeah.
Nice way to. There you
Yeah. I
One's
think it's
all
good.
around for
Yeah. I
antagonist?
think it's a good way to cut it up. Yeah, I like it.
go. Okay. So one's all
One
right.
for me. Yep.
All right, cool. So it's on to me with protagonist, which is definitely Bill Murray and Adam Driver.
Cliff and Ronnie.
By the way, I love the fact that Bill Murray's character was Cliff Robertson. They never said Cliff. The actor Cliff Robertson.
Is that a reference? That totally got over
Yeah,
my head.
that's. I was like,
They
can they
did say-
use that? Can they use that? The names are
Yeah, they
completely
said it. No,
coincidental.
they said his full name in the movie.
Clifford, but
Yeah.
they never said Cliff
Fine.
Robertson as
Fine.
the actor. But it's the two of them, and I really like the deadpan nature of theirs. I mean, you take away the meta aspect that we come to at the beginning, that's set up with the song "The Dead Won't Die," where Adam Driver says, "This is the theme:
It's Dead Don't Die.
Dead don't die."
Thank you.
Why do
I didn't
keep
wanna say
saying
it
won't
again.
I
die?
don't know. Steve was making a face at you, but just to be clear.
Yeah, I never pay attention to him anyway.
Nobody does, but I'm
What?
always right.
But regardless,
But regardless, they were. I really like their deadpan attitude towards the town. Like it's like they cared, but you had Adam Driver, who is you obviously had Adam Driver, who is should have been more involved with it. Him being the younger officer, but he was kind of he seemed kind of jaded.
He's dealing with it in his own
He
way.
read the script.
he's
Yeah, he
aloof,
read the script, and then you had Bill Murray, who is the seasoned officer, who only read part of the script.
Fucking Jim.
Yeah, we'll get. I guess we're gonna get to that part during dialogue. But I think they both did an effective job.
Would that make Jim Jarmusch the antagonist?
Oh man, I mean we've definitely had that before, where the director is.
I mean, it's almost. This is probably the most clear version of like that you could say that.
of the meta thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. All right. Well, that's good. That's one more reason we're giving antagonist a 1.
Sure.
But yeah, I really can't get into more until we get into. I guess more of it's gonna go to style and dialogue. But I'm gonna say they're both very effective protagonists. I'm gonna give them a very strong 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much want to say. Like, I like them. I think they had a good chemistry dynamic with each other. Like, they played off each other pretty well. Like, yes, even because, or perhaps in spite of the fact that the script, if you will, was known by, in universe by a character, like the way it was all set up. But like, yeah, I like following their journey, and I think it all worked well. Like, it was a buddy cop zombie movie, pretty much. And yeah, they did a good job with it, with the material and with the portrayals as well.
I liked how they were always on the same page in one way or another. Like everybody else
Yeah.
kind of was
Yeah,
reacting.
It was clear like they had been the officers together like for a long enough time before like all this crazy shit went down. So I believe their relationship is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. I like the chemistry a lot. I thought that I like Adam Driver more and more the more I see him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. Good call.
I think that he has this really original delivery and kind of way of
His presentation is kind of
a
unique.
way
Yeah.
of like acting out all his characters, and I like him in this movie a lot. I like him and Bill Murray playing off each other. Like, obviously, Bill Murray is Bill Murray, so he's gonna do
He's a
his
motherfucking legend,
Bill
man.
Murray thing, and his
Ghostbusting motherfucker.
Ghostbusting zombie killing ass Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Serious delirium, Bill Murray.
Yeah, but
Serious zombies, Bill Murray.
I mean, it's hard to take away from those two guys. I think they do a fantastic job, and like, they do have that little meta a side that probably a lot of people won't like, and could have been done a lot better. Like if Jarmusch really wanted to go all in on it, I think that's mostly the problem with that is he didn't go all in.
It's sort of like shoehorned in there, right?
Yeah, he kind of like made it a little side thing, and he didn't explore it as much as he could have. But he was trying something different, I guess, and whatever.
It feels randomly dropped in as well. Maybe it's more dialogue.
But those two characters in general were really good, and just like I love their running dialogue throughout the movie and watching their interactions with everybody else in the town who didn't really, most of the town didn't interact with each other much. It was like everybody kind of paired off at some point, but they all interacted with Adam Driver and Bill Murray, which was great. And like the first interaction you get was with Tom Waits, and then they go through the rest of the town, and you kind of like their first drive through. You see the whole town, like all the locations that you're gonna get to as you go through the movie.
Actually, do it a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so many establishing shots.
Yeah, and but no, I think that's good. Like
That'll work.
Right in the beginning, it's almost like a good video game where you see all the shit that you're gonna get to later, and then you get to it, and you're like, oh, I'm glad that paid off or whatever. But between the two of them, I think they did a good job. I'm gonna give protagonist.
So, Bill Murray's portrayal in here reminded me of Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men.
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
Good call.
I was just thinking that too right before you said that.
And it's really weird to think of that character in a zombie apocalypse.
I do like it though.
Actually, it works. But
Yeah. So, I'm not going to complain about their portrayal. I think they did a good job, even if the meta joke didn't work for me. But
Sure, that didn't land, but everything else I think works. I guess I would say to you.
For the tone of what he was going for,
Yeah.
these two characters are really good, and especially like Adam Driver, he has the smart car. He's knowledgeable about. He understands, looks at the corpses, zombies.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like
Ghouls, the undead.
so overall, I thought it worked really well. But and again, to the overall themes, which I said didn't work, but regardless, that's.
The characters I think
Yeah.
work is what we're saying. So yeah, I'll give them 1.
I'm going to put this here because by watching the film, I won't say I was entertained while watching the film, but I was intrigued. And I was interested in their story and where they would end up. So I think that counts as a 1.
Gotta give them credit there.
everybody giving it a 1?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay, great. And we are going to Ian for supporting characters.
I'm sorry, everyone, for this. I know you're probably going to disagree with me. I think that there were a lot of great actors in here. Actually, Selena Gomez surprised me quite a bit. I think she did a fantastic job in this. I felt Jarmusch wasted a lot of good talent in this. And this goes to my point about a lot of the subplots petering out. A lot of characters going nowhere. So, like, yeah, you had Danny Glover, and I don't know the actor who played the nerdy kid.
I believe it's Caleb Landry, I believe. Caleb Landry Jones?
Yeah, something like that.
Caleb Landry
He's been in a
Jones?
couple of things.
Yeah.
You've seen him in other shit.
They had a good arc, and I know all of these are representative of different groups, as I mentioned earlier, but the thing is, I don't know if I can elevate that to a 1 because I feel there's a lot of missed opportunities, and so I'm going to give it a 0.
I'm going to agree with you on the actors because I'm a fan of a lot of people like Carol Kane, and I really wanted to see her do more. And I can never get enough Tilda Swinton, but like she had a very extremely brief part in like adaptation. She was one of the few things about that movie I liked.
What?
Yeah, we'll
We'll
go
have a
there.
long
All
adaptation
I'm saying is
conversation
like
later.
I have a bias toward Tilda, so I'll leave
Yes,
her out of this.
we know
but
that.
that's my point. But I'm going to give it a 1 because I did like. There were a couple characters I liked enough to make it work. And this is probably going to cross a couple different things, so I'm going to use it here. Riz's character, I loved. And here's what nails it in the head. You've got Caleb Landry Jones, right? And it's a commentary of, I guess, or having fun with, as Spike Lee would say, the magical Negro, is like, he's the UPS guy, or I can't believe it's not UPS. I can't remember what
It's WPS.
WPS, that's it. And
man,
before Rizzo leaves, he's just like, hey, can you impart a little wisdom on me? And he gives him this like cryptic line and walks out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so perfect. I mean, that is just like, that, for a movie that's hitting you over the hammer with so many things, that was something that was just I mean, if you
It was
didn't-
a funny
if
moment
you didn't
in
know the
dialogue,
reference,
sure.
it would have slipped by. If you knew the reference, it's like a moment of brilliance. I mean, Riz is awesome. I mean, the interaction between him and Caleb Landry Jones, everybody I guess calls Frodo. I guess. I thought was great. That scene I thought was great, but that little period at the end of that where he's just like, "Hey, impart me with some wisdom," I just thought was great. I really enjoyed the chemistry between those two characters, and that to me was just a great scene, a great send off. So if for nothing else, I'm going to give them a 1. I did like, oh my God, the woman, the other police officer, Chloe's. Yeah, I thought that she was a nice change of. She was reacting to the situation the way most people would. But like Bill Murray and Adam Driver, their characters are very deadpan. So it was funny to see her contrast flying off the handle. So I'm going to give it a 1 based on the RZA scene and based on the way she interacted with them.
I don't know, man. This one I was debating as well because I see both your points. My natural inclination is to give it a 1 as a whole, although I do agree that there's some wasted potential given like the range of the cast and like the caliber of actors that were there. But to me, it's almost like it's like a Twin Peaks thing. Like there's a quirky town populated by quirky people, as portrayed by these actors.
Yeah, but Twin Peaks had
Sure.
2 seasons
To flesh it all out.
Yeah.
I get it, like for sure. Like I know you're gonna say that. So like the RZA thing to me is like that's a funny joke, like moment, yes, but it's more like dialogue. Like his character is basically that trope. So like maybe that's funny, but like or like a subversion or commentary on it, but it doesn't make him a character, right? That's my sort of rebuttal to that one thing, Chris. But I still think overall, I probably will end up giving it a solid-ish 1. Like yeah, Selena Gomez like was very impressive like for the brief-ish time. I thought she was going to be in it more, but she was cool for
I think
what
that
it was.
almost every single character you have to add for the briefish time. They're in
it, yeah. Which is, I know it's a strange qualifier, but I think it all adds up. Like it all collectively works. Even if it would be nice if we got a little bit more of each.
Like the themes, it's muddled.
Well, I mean,
It's harsh. Go ahead, Steve.
that's the
What do you
thing.
think?
Like there are a bunch of characters.
I'm mulling it over now.
So I look at this movie as though it's kind of another, just these are a bunch of vignettes that we're looking at. So you get your brief time with each of these characters, and then they get murdered by zombies. And like, I was fine with that. I actually liked most of the characters that were introduced. I enjoyed them. I knew that, I knew based on the just sheer amount of characters that were introduced like very early on in this movie that you weren't gonna have a ton of time with all of them. I was fine with it. I took each interaction as kind of this, as its own little diversion that Jarmusch wanted to take and like talk about something, whatever. So like with Caleb Landry Jones' character, it was like, oh, let's talk about movies. Like let's do a bunch of references and talk about movies. With Chloe Sevigny's character, it was like, oh, so this is gonna be, like you said, Chris, this is gonna be the character that actually has a normal fucking reaction to this.
Like
thing.
basically your audience
Like
surrogate kind of.
with the kids, it's gonna be like, oh, let's talk about like conspiracy theories. With who else was in it? With Tom Waits, it's like, all right, he's gonna be the like survivor man. That's the narrator. Okay, so like you get all these different characters that each play their own role. They're all brief, but I liked them. I liked my time with each of them, and I'm gonna give it a 1 overall for that. Like Steve Buscemi, who we haven't mentioned enough, by the way. I think he does a brilliant job in playing this fucking or not a brilliant job per se, but like I think he does a good job playing this character who is just kind of a bigot, but he has these like strangely, like he has these intimate interactions with other characters from the town, even though he's very aggressive and kind of an asshole to everybody else. He has these interactions that are like, oh, even though like he's like the town bigot basically, and everybody knows him, and they're like they kind of roll their eyes at him. Like he has this interaction with Danny Glover right in the beginning of the movie where it's like, all right, what was his name, Fred or something?
Hank.
Hank. Like, all right, Hank, whatever. Like, have a good day or whatever. And they kind of split on, I assume, the same terms that they split on every single day when they both see each other at the diner.
So, I'm gonna bring up a scene here. Selena Gomez and her cadre, midway through the movie, they spend an awful amount of time showing them arriving in town.
Mm-hmm.
Narratively, it should be, at this point, if they're doing that, establishing the main characters throughout the rest of the youthful individuals coming a little bit above teenage years, coming into town. And you spend a lot of time with character development of them, and then the next moment they're dead. I guess, yes, and the next thing you see them with is Adam Driver beheading Selena Gomez. Yes, I guess if you're dealing with a subversion of tropes,
I think
that but that's the thing is, I don't think it was pulled off because I don't. You mentioned earlier that he didn't follow through with, or something like that. That he didn't go full in with it, and so I think that the problem is he was trying to subvert tropes without going full in with doing that. He was
And therefore
trying to do too much with too many things, and so it seems to me that it was meandering with a lot of the subplots. So again, that's my last claim on that.
I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna give it a collective 1, maybe a softer 1, but still enough for 1 based on like the strength of the screen time and the characterization that they did show before they sort of either dropped off or got murdered.
But just to, because I mean I see everything you're saying, Ian, but the thing, but no, but
There's always a but with that.
of course there's always a but. But this is what makes the
He wouldn't have said it if there wasn't a but.
Well, I mean, if we didn't sit here and argue, and if there weren't
It
buts
should just be
and
me in
or,
front of it talking.
or I agree with you. Just 2 things.
Go on.
No, but there we go again. Speaking of Steve Buscemi's character, one of the subtextual things I liked with their interaction, and again, is that he seemed to be, when he said, I can't drink it, but with regard to the coffee, I can't drink too much of that stuff, it's too black for me, and then he looks at Danny Glover's
Oh my
character.
god, that wasn't subtext.
No. But my whole point is, as you said before, it's just like, this seems to be a normal thing that people disregard, but he seems to be like one of those people who he doesn't consider himself a racist, but one of those people who would think like, oh, there's a difference between black people and the N-word. What I'm saying is, oh yeah, I know there's a really controversial thing to say, but my whole point is, I think there is a lot to be, like these little interactions, and I agree with you, with a lot of the interactions, I think there's stuff that he like left on the cutting room floor, for lack of a better term, but I think there's a lot of subtextual things that I think that they
Not subtext. He's whacking things with malice left and right. And I'm sorry.
I'm not talking about Jarmusch. I'm talking about what the characters bring to it, what the actors bring to the characters. That's my whole point. Is there was interesting things going on between Buscemi and Glover. What I'm saying is they really made the characters memorable. Those parts memorable. That's. I think that's what I'm beating you over the head with.
I'm saying we can't judge it to be memorable until time is passed.
Fair enough.
Sure.
I'm coming down with a 1 though.
Okay.
Softish, but still 1 overall.
Okay. And we are to Steevo with dialogue. Did we ruin all your dialogue yet?
No, not yet.
Not all of it.
This one badly, of course. The Adam Driver repeated. This movie is a lot, like, especially the dialogue-wise, and I'm gonna include the theme song. Is a lot about leitmotifs and like kind of,
like arc words.
And as we say, like beating you over the head with it, but like that's kind of a. I mean, he does this overtly, but this is kind of a. Important thing in storytelling is repeating motifs, repeating certain things about the story and the narrative. So this one badly, something that gets repeated a lot. Another one is what was that? A wild animal or a pack of wild animals?
Or several.
For one scene, that's repeated 3 times.
And then it's repeated in another scene later on, or it's said again later on.
Yeah,
but
they brought it up a couple of times.
But like no, I think a lot of the dialogue they 100% do. We'll look it up later.
I'll tell you where it is, but when you're done, go on.
They go through a lot of this stuff. Like I think that I actually like the dialogue quite a bit in this movie. There are parts of it, I will agree, that it could have used another run through on the editing on the editing process.
Another look through.
But I actually enjoy a lot of the conversations that are had. The initial conversation with Tom Waits in the forest, I think is good. I enjoyed. I know, obviously, by Ian's face. If you're not watching this, Ian's making a face of hatefulness towards me.
That's okay.
And
I was staring at the stand-up couch over there.
but yeah, he's just imagining my face on the stand-up couch.
These are Sia's
I actually enjoyed that, and like there's all this. It's very non standard type dialogue. Like he has in the same way as, and I'm not comparing the two of these in any way, but like in the same way, like Yorgos Lanthimos has his own like style of dialogue. Jarmusch has his own kind of style of dialogue that comes in heavy play in this movie, and it's a lot about kind of saying what you mean as opposed to like, especially in this movie, there's a lot of saying what you mean, and then like there's subtext embedded in there, but the regular text is so very fucking obvious, and I kind of appreciate like that, especially in terms of most of the conversations in the movie are Bill Murray and Adam Driver talking to each other, and I like their frank conversations between each other and the way and just they have a specific cadence. Like everybody kind of has a cadence going on through this movie, and I like that.
I think that's obvious, yeah.
As it goes.
So I'm going to jump in here to give the rebuttal to that. I'm interested to see, because I like Coffee and Cigarettes, to go back to the only other Jarmusch movie I've ever seen. And the thing is, I like it because of a few scenes in there. That is what I remember. I wonder if I had watched it now, whether I would have given dialogue a 1 or a 0, because I remember a couple of other scenes were either not great and sometimes painful to watch. And when I reflect back on this movie, I remember some great dialogue scenes. You brought some of them up. Those are, if I want to remember the good parts about this movie, these are the scenes that I'm going to reflect back on. But I can also, if I want to be a true cynic, which I am in the mood for tonight, I can look back on some of the scenes that were incredibly not painful, because it's not like cringeworthy, but it was actually frustrating to watch. Seeing like a couple of the good scenes, I want to say, like I wish you did more of this kind of humor throughout the movie, versus Tom Waits bookending this with unneeded speech. And I'm like, I understand what you're trying to say, Jim Jarmusch. You don't need to repeat this to me. I understand the themes of everything. Or jokes that ascended, or just some scenes that just fell really flat for me. So I'm probably going to give it a 0, but that's probably my taste, and I might not like Jim Jarmusch as a director. I'll have to see more of his work.
At least it's written stuff. So like, yeah, I'm somewhat on the fence, but I think I'm leaning 60-40, 60 towards 1. Because I agree, like, to an extent with both of you. It's classic Jarmusch sort of like small time, like, small interaction dialogue. And yeah, he has that running thing, like the wild animal, etc., and a couple other things too, like the theme song, which will probably lead in the style a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he's always had that sort of like stick to him, and I think it works more than it doesn't, and maybe not as much in this particular film. So yeah, I agree. Like some things didn't land all that well, or could have been like sort of refined, like maybe like take another run through or two towards regarding the script. But overall, I did think I found myself not necessarily laughing or chuckling, but grinning throughout this movie more than not. So I think that's probably like half my gut reaction, half my analysis about it. So yeah, while there were some missteps, I think they did not outweigh the parts that I thought were quality or like worked and landed overall. So I'll probably go with like, again, like I said, softer 1, but probably 1 overall for dialogue. Not the greatest Jarmusch shit ever, but still serviceable, still pretty solid.
Alright, I've been thinking a lot about this since we saw it. Jarmusch is great with dialogue, and I think he's also great with casting. And I think a lot of things that I said, controversial or not, had to do with the performances doing a lot with a little. Like I think. I mean,
it's all mundane shit for the most part.
Yeah, but I think Tom Waits' character said more when he wasn't speaking than when he was. When he pointed out the mushroom, saying, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here," was a callback to a line of dialogue in Only Lovers Left Alive, which to me is his best movie. My favorite of his movies. and it was something that was said in there. So to me, it was a callback. And if he had only said that thing back, less was more with him. And I'm a fan of Jarmusch's dialogue, and I am obviously a fan of his casting. And here's my but.
But go on.
I'm not
Don't show
sure,
us your butt.
but I'm not sure if I can give this a 1 because I do remember lines, and I like dialogue that's naturalistic. I like the way it flows, and this didn't have the flow. It didn't seem natural. Yes, I remember a couple lines, but to me, remembering a couple lines does not
Sure.
dialogue make, and I think the dialogue is a symptom to the bigger problem I think we had with this, with regard to themes and with why it's not getting a 3, is that it just didn't. There was no cohesiveness to it, and as we said before, you don't have to have spoken words to have dialogue. What Danny Glover and Steve Buscemi didn't say, or what Tom Waits didn't say, the chemistry that Caleb Landry Jones and RZA had, or Caleb Landry Jones and or the kids had, or what I'm saying is, it's just like it was the actors more than what was on the
script
page.
itself. Yeah.
So I hate to say this because I love Jarmusch.
I was gonna say bold move for you being a
this breaks my heart to do it because he is definitely one of my favorite directors. But I have to be honest with you, I'm sitting there in the theater going, it's so close, but I don't think it quite. I think I'm gonna have to give this maybe a softer 0 for whatever it's worth, but it's gonna be 49, 51, 51 against.
Fair enough. I respect that. I'm still thinking with my 60. Yeah, it might be closer that you say that, but I still think it's just enough over line for me. So, mark me with a 1 for dialogue.
All right, 2 zeros, 2 1s.
Okay.
Very divisive.
And Scott, it's to you, Sal.
So again, I guess I'll say, if nothing else, Jim Jarmusch is still a pretty great director, and I'm going to steal this from both of you. I fucking love the soundtrack in this film. Recently, I haven't really been noticing the soundtracks all too much, or if I did notice them, I thought they were like in a negative way. This one, like it got to me, like certain scenes, like whatever they were playing. I don't know if they were like classic songs aside from the theme song, which
Sturgis Simpson.
yeah, which was set up early, sure, which was fine. Like I think Ian made this point even off cast, like at the point that you as an audience are sick of that song, Bill Murray's character is like
Throws
fuck
out the
it,
window.
Yeah, exactly.
and that's a nice touch. Like I give him credit on that, and like all the shots look great, like for the most part, pretty solid. But yeah, like that and like. Just the general, again, like your sort of standard small town zombie apocalypse, I guess I want to say. Like he knows how to put together a film, so I can't really like complain about much, if anything, on the stylistic front. I think it's just a decent to solid 1, and probably more solid in my interpretation. So that's all I have to say. But I would like to check out the soundtrack because it is one that sort of stuck with me. I found myself thinking during the viewing, like, damn man, that's a sweet song, or like this really matches, like this. Score is matching really well to what's happening on screen, so
Yeah.
that's basically my thoughts on sound.
Yeah,
One baby.
his band Squirrel, and they do the music for a lot of his stuff, and I'm always a fan of that. Watching, especially with Selena Gomez and Luca and the other guy that was in the backseat of the car, the way they shot that old 72. Or is it 72, 68?
It's at 68, I believe.
That tugboat that they're driving,
Yeah.
like the way he shot it was reminiscent of Dawn of the Dead. It was reminiscent.
I mean, and even they fucking lampshaded that.
Yeah, but it was also reminiscent of the the first Evil Dead. Raimi did it,
yeah,
and the
true.
Coen brothers actually worked on it because they were friends. There was a lot of little things that were nice little touches that I noticed. Obviously, as you said, Scott, there's a reason I'm a fan of Jarmusch, because there's certain things that are very much him. Stylistically, I'd rather him try something new and not get there all the way than
Retread old shit.
Retread old shit.
Sure.
And that I'll probably come back to that point. But with regard to style, it was Jarmusch, and it was some nodding, and it was some trying some new things. But whatever Jarmusch does, and he always tries to push the boundaries in subtle and not so subtle ways in all of his films. I love it. If nothing else, this is why I love him as a director. I mean,
I feel
the things he gets from the camera, the thing he gets from the actors he gets, in a very meta way, as I was talking about with dialogue, what the actors brought to their roles. When I said dialogue, when I said supporting, that's him. He is the glue that holds all this together, and even in a movie like this, which I don't think is his best work, it's him, and I love the style. Of
Yes, yeah. I mean, his own like unmistakable style, and it still worked here as all.
Yeah, it's
all.
him, and
It's
it's
my
also
final
him
thought.
trying new things. So I appreciate
Sure.
it.
Any complaints I have would be nitpicks. So I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yeah, I mean, I love the cinematography in this film. I love some of the shots that he gets are really cool. It's a slow and quiet zombie movie.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot that it was like very quiet when somebody behind me in my theater started snoring because he had fallen asleep during it. Which I was like, this bizarrely like adds to the atmosphere of this film. But yeah, like it's
A meta style.
it's yeah, and I know like
I don't blame
Ian probably fell asleep as well. But
I stayed awake.
but no, like I actually really enjoyed the style of this film. I love the soundtrack, as you said. I thought the cinematography was great. I thought some of his Jarmushian style,
Yeah.
like was
I like that too.
his standard stuff, like style was on display here, and I really like that. And you know, this is a movie that I don't think a ton of people are going to love, and I don't think that it should be a movie that a ton of people love. I think it takes a very I don't know. It's
Meandering road.
yeah. It's not I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but what I do want to say is that if you're looking
Are you on style or recommendation?
style.
Okay.
But what I do want to say is if you're looking for just like a straight up movie that looks good and sounds good and you don't have to worry about the plot, check it out here. You're fucking in for a treat.
You can do worse,
Yeah, you can definitely do worse. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a 1 for style.
Okay, and it's on me with recommendation. And I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I'm going to bring up Patterson, only to make my point. Is I was watching Patterson, and I was sitting there for most of the movie, not sure if I liked it or not. I just couldn't stop watching it, but I was like, and there was one point in time, one perfect moment and I think it's the second to last scene that the movie gelled for me, and I went from being ambivalent to loving it. I never got that in this film. And if you love Jarmusch and you're a fan of his, I am going to say you're going to see this. I don't have to tell you to see this. And Beth's going to see it, and I'm going to watch it with Beth, and I may or may not be kicking myself at that point in time, but as a general recommendation, I could recommend a bunch of other Jarmusch you should see.
Yeah, man. Like, fuck, it's so harsh, right?
It breaks my heart. I can't believe I'm saying this.
That's just it. I'm gonna call back.
I'm gonna cry.
What you just said earlier,
Don't
like,
cry.
it sucks because, I mean,
Shed your tears.
sometimes nice. Sometimes my natural thing is say, would I see this movie again? Yeah, I would. I wouldn't go see it in theaters, but I would see like 3 other Jarmusch movies and other zombies movies like above it. So yeah, it's harsh. It's kind of shitty, but I honestly don't know if I'm gonna give this a 1. I'm probably leaning towards a 0, only because in light of those facts. So maybe some caveats there. But what do you think?
This isn't even the best Bill Murray
Zombie movie.
comedy.
Yeah, I mean that might be putting the exclamation point on yeah.
You stole the words directly out of my mouth, Ian. I
Go ahead.
really like this movie. I would see it again in a heartbeat. I might even go and spend more money and see it again. I think I'm probably gonna give a recommend for a 0. I'm gonna recommend a 0 for these reasons. That was one of them. This isn't the best Bill Murray zombie comedy.
Nice.
This isn't the best Jim Jarmusch movie. You could certainly see a better zombie movie in general. I don't think I can recommend this to more than 50% of the people that I'm friends with. And, like, I am friends with a lot of people that really like movies. I could probably recommend it to, like, 40% of the people that I'm friends with. But, like, I don't think I could recommend it to more than, like, half the people I'm friends with.
I hear you.
So, yeah, I like this movie a lot. I'll probably see it again. I'm probably going to think about it a lot. I don't think I can recommend it in terms of our scale for those reasons.
Yeah, it's super harsh because I just feel like I recommended like lesser movies, but just in terms of all that, I honestly don't think I can,
See,
in all seriousness, give it as
because
a 1.
Jarmusch set such a high bar, and usually when I get out of his movies, I'm like, for whatever reason, you got to see it. I know you don't, but maybe you like this. You know, I know this might not be your over, but
Yeah, man. So it sucks, but goody.
It's preachy, and I don't think it's as clever as it thinks it is.
Hmm.
So, I didn't hate it. I wasn't bored at all. I came out thinking it's an okay to good movie, but I'm not going to recommend it.
But not quite memorable, I guess we'll say. And yeah, like I said, it sucks to like do this to a John Wick movie, but hey, man, here it is.
oh yeah, I'm
I
heartbroken.
know Chris is about to cry about this.
I'm
but,
seriously, I'm sitting here going, I'm like looking at my scores, like, if you're not looking at the camera, I'm looking down at my scores, like, oh, God, I'm really giving this
But
the
listen,
score that I'm giving it.
You gotta judge it up. You
It'll
gotta,
be okay.
Yeah.
Where's my whiskey?
you gotta judge
We're
it
all
on
going
its
to
own,
be dead from climate change soon
Yeah.
anyway.
you gotta judge it on its own merits, and yeah. Go ahead.
This really hurts. Okay,
Well, why don't
You'll
you
be alright. You'll be alright.
why don't you
Alright.
get through it? Power through it.
Jim, I still love you, man.
Power through and give us the scores.
Okay,
This is the wildest scores we've had in a very long time, by the way.
For
yeah,
real?
it is.
All right.
You
Well,
got the scores. You want
what
me to
is
read
it?
them?
I got them, but if you
Alright,
have
go
them,
ahead.
go ahead. All right. Well, you want to go highest to lowest or lowest to highest?
yes.
You gave
Dealer's
it or
choice.
you can say yes. Highest to lowest.
Yeah.
All right. I give the highest score with an 8. Scott, you gave it a 7.
Hmm.
Chris a 6. Ian a 5.
Which is anyone?
Which
I'm with Rotten Tomatoes. Also.
averages out to a 6.75.
That's kind of fine. Like it's above average, yeah.
D
But
plus.
I'm sorry.
is that correct? Or did you?
Might be a
math wrong?
6.5.
If it's 6.75 or 3.5,
It's
it's still roughly
it's
the same.
6.5. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's 6.5.
Ooh, a D. It's,
I
I'm
don't know,
just gonna say we
man.
went from
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Like, I
6.5.
don't
I'm
disagree with
taking
that
class.
for real.
As my score showed, I like it much better than that. But again, I can't really argue with it.
I mean, and I'm biased. Like, I can give you. I mean, I am going to be thinking about this for a long time. I'm going to be looking forward to watching it again with Beth. As I said, I'll probably at that point probably either kick myself one way or another that I didn't modify one of my scores. But
Sure.
truth be told, if I'm going to be objective about this, this is as honest as I can be.
Yeah, I feel you, and I can respect that.
He was an honest man.
In life
breaks my
and
heart.
then on death.
Because in any other filmmaker, this would have been like, yeah, but it's, you know,
I
he
feel you.
does elevate
you
something that
don't
could,
need to apologize to our viewers.
not like he's ever going to listen to this, but
Or
Our
me.
one viewer.
our one viewer,
He.
John Smith,
John Smith. John Smith.
John,
John Smith for sure is gonna listen to this.
I thought John Smith is Jim
John
Jarmusch.
Smith, thank you so much for listening. I
John
hope
Smith.
you don't hate us for this review, or if you
Yeah.
do, just tell us about it.
If you want to talk, John, if you want to, we can talk Jarmusch movies if you like Jarmusch.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if nobody has anything else to say,
I do not have anything more to say.
I have been Chris Morgan here with Jonathan Ian
It
Manzer,
didn't break my heart.
Stephen Amosi,
I'm still going to die.
as are we all. Scott Thurley.
I'm going on a spaceship in the sky. See you next time.
Peace
Good
out.
night.
Editing and engineering by Jonathan Ian Manzer. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?
Nice lead into the next episode.
Lord have mercy.
How
I didn't
long was that?
even think about that.
Like
It's
well over
a
an
bit
hour.
over an hour, like 103 or 4.
It's 103.
No,
Yes.
guess not well over an hour. It seems so long.
Wow, that was like the longest.
Oh, my arm hurts
podcast
from
we've
holding
had in a
the
while.
fucking.
Although I did enjoy the crap out of it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
That
fun.
was the most hostile we've gotten in a while.
Yeah,
I had
and
also
the
no rain.
wildest range of scores we've had in a long time.
Seriously, we usually could talk each other.
Now
into
maybe it's
the
a better
same
movie
score.
only because of that.
Just had a fucking glass. Ah! all into us watching this. Got a little potato stain. This is potato. Excuse me, sir.
The Chavez against basketball is one of the same shit they were in the class.
Pancakes,
Yes, please.
bitches.
Crazy. I mentioned to them how the toppings all fell to the bottom.
Yeah.
The nachos, they ate all the chips and left all the topping. Once they got down to it, that's like they got down. Seen like Scott has wine glasses, but I could also see where Steevo walks around with like a wine glass ready at his disposal. I called it it's like from your utility bill. You're like, wine glass.
He's got at least one.
I'm ready
maybe
for that.
two.
That glass, I got more than 2, motherfucker.
Did you get my line cooker? Oh, did you like my log line? Jesus Christ, man!
Now I'm going that way.
Oh, 12 degrees warmer than today.
That you got for your dad.
What'd you say?
It's gonna be 12 degrees warmer tomorrow.
Because China
I
shipped it.
bought a sapper for my
So I'm gonna read from the
last-
Bible.
for, I don't know, 2 years ago Christmas, and then they
For
accidentally
the
sent a second
log line.
one. So I got a second one. But it was like the
Okay.
weirdest thing. It was like when you set
Not
one, it
the
was like,
actual quote. It's a modified
So,
for
like, I was upstairs apartment,
Yamada.
and
Okay.
But
the people below me were probably gonna kill me, so I just never
Just
even
gotta put it on your option.
It quickly turned into my head wrap.
So
That's what my fucking bike is that I had in my room.
I think it's as good as the one I did for Dermish.
you have a running bike
I love the one for Jarmusch, by
or
the
a
way.
real bike? mean,
I like how I
a
just stopped for
management
laughter.
bike or an actual
What?
I had to stop to
She wants to know if you have
yes.
I
a
don't know
riding
what it's
bike like
called.
Skull Hands. Yes, he has a stationary bike that
A
spins.
stationary bike,
Stationary bike with a desk on it.
and you don't use it,
I don't. I should. And you can
or
use it?
buy a treadmill? Yeah.
So,
I
Before I
just-
buy a treadmill.
the director
just give it to her
of,
before she
my
buys
department,
before she buys the treadmill. You got
she has a standing desk now.
Wednesday.
Oh, really?
Never.
My
It
birthday.
seems to be the trend.
in
Never if I get a bike.
1.7
I wish I had one of those that was modular so I could stand where I wanted to and sit when I wanted to.
Oh, it is that. Because of
Yeah.
I know what it is.
Because I know that there's some where they're just.
I don't know if I could work with that.
Don't sell her.
A lot what I do is
Standing desk.
Oh, yeah.
I do a lot of pointing and clicking.
No, what, I'm gonna buy it.
Then I'd sit down
I
and.
didn't know what you were talking about. I was like, the way he's sitting? Like, what?
Well, no, with my, I was sitting there with the mouse.
I don't think you can cross your legs that way.
Yeah, I don't know if I can work with this. I looked up like, it seems fine. I don't know what angle you're looking at. It seems fine from here.
Oh, I'm not gonna use it then.
Oh, so when you get home from your 13-hour shift at 9:30 at night?
And my
You here till 1 in the
Monday
morning?
day off.
Something like that.
Have we gone to that gym?
You're
Oh,
sitting
it's
here.
still recording.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Is it really?
But